And away we go on Dolphins Today. Thanks so much for making Dolphins Today a part of your day. Fired up to be with you, discussing some free agent rumors and how Chris Grier and this front office could perhaps get relatively creative and add a little sizzle to this Miami Dolphins roster. Welcome in. I'm your host, Jake Riepma. Fired up to be with you. And first of all, I think we touch on a name that would excite a lot of people if there is any substance to this rumor that Derrick Henry, a very accomplished running back in the National Football League, has expressed interest in signing with the Miami Dolphins. Now, the rumor stems from his time on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, who doesn't love that show, where he expressed some interest in perhaps playing for the Miami Dolphins. And you look at the season statistical output from Derrick Henry over last year. Yes, he's been in this league for quite a while, and at a taxing position like the running back, you always wonder how many good years a guy that's a proven veteran like that has left. But over the course of the past season, 280 carries, over 1,000 yards, had the 12 touchdowns, such an excellent short yardage back as well. Just a physical specimen that could add an edge and a toughness to this Miami Dolphins offense that was lacking often in 2023. So let's put it down on paper. Let me know what you think in the comments. Grade the idea of signing Derrick Henry. Do you think it's an A+ idea, or maybe somewhere in the middle, B, C, or D? Or do you absolutely hate the thought of investing in a running back and investing at a position like running back when you already have Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, and even Chris Brooks as guys that have proven they can be very, very productive backs in this league? We know about the Dolphins' cap situation. Not great. In fact, second worst in the National Football League, but some flexibility added with the increase in the NFL salary cap. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Grade the idea of signing Derrick Henry. A, B, C, D, or F. I'll tell you what, I don't necessarily hate this, and the grade kind of looks like a lot of the grades that I got. You know, it's about a B-, C+ grade, where I think there's other options and there's other needs that this Miami Dolphins team has, especially on the offense. We've talked about that at length, the need to retool this offensive line, perhaps invest in the tight end position as well. The receiver room lacks a lot of depth. So when you start to count it off position by position, running back doesn't have a huge priority. But on the same side, if you could get a guy like Derrick Henry that would completely change the way this offense can perform, in particular in short yardage situations, I don't hate that idea. And if Chris Grier and the front office have a way to make it work, which Chris Grier at the NFL Combine did talk about some of the flexibility that the Dolphins will have based on some of the moves, and some of the moves that have already been made, like cutting Emmanuel Ogbah and cutting Xavier Howard, is going to free up so much cap space. So there might be some potential flexibility to sign big-name free agents. And when you think about where these rumors stem from, Derrick Henry, as I mentioned, on Bussin' with the Boys, saying, I wanted to go to Miami. I wanted to play for the Dolphins. That's where I wanted to go. That's where I thought I was going. And he added this, now these comments about a month ago, saying, I want to be somewhere that whatever happens gives me the best shot of winning the Super Bowl. And when you look at the Miami Dolphins running back room, Raheem Mostert set the franchise record for touchdowns this past season. Devon Achane burst onto the scene as a rookie, had a breakout year before the injury. And that RB3 position spot is where things get interesting. You've got a proven veteran like Jeff Wilson Jr., who battled some injuries, but at times showed he could be a productive third back in Mike McDaniel's system. I don't think Salvon Ahmed is going to be back. I think he'll hit free agency, and someone will pick him up on a lower-end contract. So the RB3 becomes the point in the depth chart that you circle and wonder, is it Jeff Wilson Jr. or perhaps sign Derrick Henry? Let me know what you think in the comments. Should Miami sign Derrick Henry? Type S for sign, P for pass. Derrick Henry coming off another 1,000-yard plus running season, as well as 12 touchdowns. He's been tremendous his entire career. Big physical back that could certainly help the Dolphins in short yardage situations. You pair him with the speedster like Devon Achane. Raheem Mostert can be your everyday running back, your every down running back. That certainly would be one of the best running back rooms in the National Football League. And with that said, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. would become the odd man out that right, wrong, or indifferent, the business of the National Football League, he would find himself cut. And cutting Jeff Wilson Jr. would save the Dolphins roughly $3 million. So as we continue to have that conversation about what the Dolphins cap situation looks like, cutting Jeff Wilson Jr. makes a lot of sense. And we've talked about the Dolphins cap situation at length. They're in the second worst position of any team in the National Football League. But with that salary increase to $255 million, the Dolphins should be able to come in around right now about $38.5 million over the cap, but with so many different options to restructure guys. So you think the Tua contract is on its way as well. And Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus even added that the Dolphins have the most restructurability of any team in the National Football League in terms of dollar amount. So thank you, Sam. I'm not sure what other terms you would use to describe the Dolphins' restructurability, but good for the Dolphins. They've got a lot of flexibility in restructuring that salary cap to be able to make it more team-friendly. And as I mentioned, cutting Jeff Wilson Jr. would save about $3 million. Now, what Derrick Henry would command on the open free agent mark remains to be seen, but certainly a guy of that caliber obviously is going to be one of the higher paid running backs despite his age and being a little bit longer in the tooth. Now, here's where I think Derrick Henry could really help the Miami Dolphins because, yes, at times their offense looked prolific. We know the narrative there. They were great against bad defenses and not so good against good defenses. But an area where Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith and the Dolphins offense in general really struggled was in third and fourth and short situations. And a guy like Derrick Henry, a short yardage back, a big powerful back, would add one more element to the offensive play calling, especially in those third and fourth short situations. Now take a look at the screen there. The Dolphins were 19th in the NFL, converting less than 50% of those situations in third or fourth and short. Compare that to the Tennessee Titans. Now, I'm not saying Derrick Henry solves all the problems, and because the Titans had Derrick Henry, they converted on every single third and fourth and short, but the Titans converted it better than 57%. That was fourth in the National Football League compared to the Dolphins, who are in the bottom third in that category. So adding one more element to the running back room could certainly help in an area that the Dolphins really struggled. But again, it relates back to that conversation of investing in the running back position. So let me know what you think in the comments. Should the Dolphins invest in the running back position or utilize their resources elsewhere? Let me know in the comments. If you think they should invest in the running back, type Y for yes. If not, type N for no. It's that simple. Now, coming up, I want to talk about another position of need on the offensive side of the football at wide receiver and the potential of signing maybe Jauan Jennings. We'll take a look at what that looks like. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, the only ticketing app you'll ever need. It's the Game Time app that guarantees the lowest price possible. Super easy to use app as well with that high resolution photo so you know exactly where you're sitting. No deception whatsoever. Miami Heat are playing some great basketball right now. Get out and see them. We also have spring training, the Marlins season on its way, but don't take my word for it. Download the Game Time app. Use that promo code FINSCHAT for $20 off. And oh yeah, we love you and we care about you. So we'll put that link right in the comments of today's video. So one click and you're there. I'll tell you a quick story about the Game Time app. One thing I love, the all-in pricing feature. In a past life that I'm embarrassed to admit, I used a different ticketing app, and I thought, wow, I'm getting a great deal on this. Not so fast. They hit you with this, that, and the other. And the great thing about one of the features of the Game Time app, you get that all-in price, so there's no deception. I absolutely love it. But as I mentioned, don't take my word for it. Download the Game Time app. Use that promo code FINSCHAT for $20 off. The link is in the comment. Take the stress out of buying tickets. Use Game Time. They guarantee the lowest price. Now, let's talk about improving the wide receiver room. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, not a lot of depth there. You take a look at who has been catching balls for Tua Tagovailoa for the Miami Dolphins, and it's two guys, Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. After that, production completely bottoms out and falls off the map. You got Braxton Berrios, who is a free agent. I don't think he'll be back. Chase Claypool was a swing and a miss. You didn't give up much to get him, but that experiment didn't work out. I don't believe Cedric Wilson or Eric Ezukama will be back, and so that leaves a lot more questions than answers in the wide receiver room. And when you look at the statistical data from the Dolphins in 2023, it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out all the production came from Jaylen, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. Over 60% of the receiving yards recorded in 2023 were by one of those two guys. And I think you saw down the stretch, again, if you and I can figure it out, obviously defensive coordinators can figure it out. You key in on Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, and Tua didn't really have any other option. And when you look at the free agent market, there's some pretty impressive names at the wide receiver position, and Jauan Jennings is at the top of the list for me. Here's a guy who was drafted in the 7th round, but has really excelled and, in my opinion, overachieved throughout his first couple of years in the National Football League playing for the San Francisco 49ers. His career stats you see on the screen, over 960 yards receiving with 7 touchdowns. And when you go back to his rookie season in 2021, he kind of burst onto the scene, had the 5 touchdowns, but he also plays with an edge. He plays with a little bit of chippiness that you like to see. He's very reliable. In fact, in San Francisco, they call him third and Jauan because he's always coming through on third down. And not to mention, how about the performance he had in the Super Bowl? Yes, he had the 4 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown, but don't forget about throwing for a touchdown. He joined Nick Foles as the only player to throw and catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So I think that's going to drive his price tag up a little bit because we all have that recency bias where we think, when's the last time we saw Jauan Jennings? Oh, that's right. He was catching passes in the Super Bowl. He was throwing passing touchdowns. So I think that does drive the price up a little bit. But I think Jauan Jennings to Miami makes a lot of sense. He's such a steady third receiver, which is exactly what the Dolphins need because quite literally they don't have a third receiver. They have Tyreek Hill and Jauan Jennings, and Jaylen Waddle. I'd love to add Jauan Jennings to that wide receiver room. So let me know what you think in the comments. Should Jauan Jennings get signed by the Dolphins? Should the Dolphins sign Jauan Jennings? Comment no thanks or yes please, because I think it'd be a worthwhile investment for the Dolphins offense to make. And potentially a home run. We're talking about a guy who would know his role as the third wide receiver, reliable, sprinkle in the flexibility that he brings to the offense in terms of trick plays. We know Frank Smith and Mike McDaniel would love another resource at the wide receiver position to utilize some of that creative play calling and take a page out of Kyle Shanahan's book with San Francisco and how they were able to implement him into the offense, in particular in that Super Bowl. And so similar to San Francisco with 2 really good wide receivers, Miami with Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, I think Jauan Jennings could really thrive and excel as that number 3 receiver for the Miami Dolphins. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this edition of Dolphins Today. And if you haven't yet, what the hell are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel because we're bringing you daily Dolphins content covering the aqua and orange every way you could possibly think of. And oh yeah, it's free as well. So smash that sub button for me. We want to continue to add to our Dolphins Today family and to our community as well. Hey, how about a huge shout out for today's producer, Colin Brown on the 1s and 2s, helping us bring you all the Dolphins Today content. And another edition of Dolphins Today is in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.